Whether it's marketing or selling, just focusing on the product isn't going to work. I mean, obviously, the product is important. What you do is important. But if we all focus on the product and we have competitors, just like everybody else, we all end up saying the same thing. Our product is best. Our product can do this. Our product can do that. Our product is better than yours. So from a potential client's point of view, what's the difference?
You're listening to the Sales Today podcast, and I'm your host, Fred Copestake. On this podcast, we explore how sales professionals can develop a modern approach to winning business, the application of virtual selling techniques, how to create meaningful business relationships, and much more. Why not take our free collaborative selling scorecard to see how your sales approach suits today's environment? You'll find a link in the show notes. Welcome to this episode of the Sales Today podcast, where I'm delighted to be joined by Peter Elgar. Peter is director at HPS and he sells pigs. Peter, welcome. Why are you giggling?
Hi, Fred. Pleased to meet you. Yeah, I love that expression. We sell pigs. Yeah.
It's true, isn't it? Or should I have given you a little bit more of a technical introduction?
Yeah,
Give us a technical introduction so we get it right.
We sell advanced liquid product recovery technology, otherwise known as pigging technology, of which a pig, which is basically a special projectile which goes through pipelines, is a key component of that. So we sort of sell pigs, but actually we sell systems which help companies that transfer liquid through pipelines, whether that's food, beverages, paints, industrial lubricants, whatever. We help them save tens, sometimes hundreds of thousands of pounds, dollars, euros in product recovered every year. There's lots of other benefits as well, such as environmental sustainability, faster changeovers, general efficiency gains, etc.
No, I mean, there are loads, and I was tempted to say you fire pigs through pipes, which might have people turning off. But those benefits, and I'm kind of making light, but only because you do on LinkedIn. You started it.
Absolutely.
No, there's tons of benefits for these. But the reason I want to talk to you today is ultimately you're a manufacturer and you sell to manufacturers, and so I've got this interest in manufacturers and selling. And there's kind of two areas around this I want to tackle today. There's one around products and one around process.
Okay.
So the first one is, from what I see, lots of manufacturers try to sell their product. They're fascinated by it. They talk about it. They're centered around it. Everything's to do their product, and it don't work.
Yeah.
Am I biased in what I'm seeing here? Because I know there's a better way, or is that something you see too?
I do. And as you say, whether it's marketing or selling, just focusing on the product isn't going to work. I mean, obviously, the product is important. What you do is important. But if we all focus on the product and we have competitors, just like everybody else, we all end up saying the same thing. Our product is best. Our product can do this. Our product can do that. Our product is better than yours. So from a potential client's point of view, what's the difference?
Yeah. Actually, I have seen a couple of people who say they're the second best at something, which is actually a bit of an attention grabber. There's a reason why they do that. But yeah, why is it then, do you think, that people do talk about the product so much? And I've got a couple of theories behind this. I wonder if they match up with yours.
Because it's easy, because that's what you do, that's what you get passionate about, that's the day job, product. Really, you should be focusing on the client, what they want, their objectives, what they're trying to achieve. And, if your product works for them, then great. But you also have to be honest. And if it doesn't work for them, it's not what they're looking for. Don't try and shoehorn it in.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's easy because that's what's been trained. Because people are so interested in the stuff that they do that they will train sales teams and salespeople or anyone customer focused with an inch of their lives around the product. Guess what I'm going to talk about? If you've not told me and you're not informed me that actually that's not the best way and the skills to do that, it's where I'm going to go, isn't it? So you say around the client. So thinking about that, if there's somebody listening to this, and I could go on about this forever, but I need a different voice saying it. What kind of things can people do to become more client focused?
Listen, I think it's the most important thing. And I'm sure it's it's a common problem with most people, marketing, sales, and so on. It's so, because we get so hung up on the product, you're not actually listening to the client. You really need to find out what the client wants, what they understand, what they're looking for, and whether you can guide them along that journey, and whether end up in your product, great. The product, the product's important, of course, it's not secondary, it's extremely important. But whether it meets the needs of the client in the first place is surely the most important thing.
Yeah. Listen, which we can get better at, A, by understanding why we should be doing it, which is what you said, to really understand them as to what we're trying to do. But also how to do that, and by asking questions, which will mean people talk more.
Yeah, asking questions and keeping quiet. Listening is a skill, and it doesn't come naturally to everybody, particularly in the traditional model of selling, which is, as we've said, product, benefits, features, etc. Actually listening, taking in what's being said, as you mentioned, asking questions, considering these questions, reflecting and back, make sure you understand that yourself, is probably one of the most important roles or talents of a salesperson.
Yeah, I think so. And it's a bit ironic, isn't it, that people often rail against salesy people. Now, the most salesy people I find are the ones that haven't been trained in sales.
Yeah.
Because they think, oh no, I'm in sales now, I better talk about my stuff, I better go and rabbit away. Whereas actually a good salesperson, they understand that it's the questioning skills, it's the ability to ask that, listen to the responses that they're initiating. That's where we're going to get a difference, isn't it?
Completely. And that doesn't come naturally to most people. It's a skill, like any skill or any art, and it has to be learned.
Yeah.
And usually taught.
Well, I'd say so, but again, it could be a bit self-serving.
Yeah, but it doesn't. It's there's a lot to sales. It's just like any skill and art. There's an awful lot to it, and an awful lot we don't know. And I don't know why, but you wouldn't hire an engineer that hasn't had some experience or qualification in engineering, because it's a very dangerous thing to do, and it's probably going to be a very expensive mistake. If you do hire somebody fresh out of college, you put them on a training course and an apprenticeship or whatever. Sales is no different. There's a lot to it. There are different techniques, there are different ways to do it, there are different approaches, there are different things to learn. You wouldn't just say something, oh, there you go, there's a job in sales, go and sell this. Particularly with the more complex.
But they do. People do. And maybe not quite like that, but often it is taking people maybe who are technically very, very good. And you've probably seen this again in a world where there's somebody who often goes out into the clients because he's got a technical job to do. And the clients love speaking to them because they sort out the problem, because again, that's what they're ace at. And someone say, hey, clients love you, we better put you into sales. And so off they go. You're going to speak to clients, there's your card, there's your brochure, bang. Nothing else with that kind of more, I don't know, nuanced or some of the more technical stuff around how to actually sell. And they're relying on their technical smarts that they've always done before to achieve what they've done before. And it's not really going to work when the sales is a full-time job.
It's very much chicken or egg. And I've been in that dilemma myself before. I'm sure a lot of other people have in manufacturing. Do you take a technical person and train them in sales, or you take a salesperson and train them in technical knowledge? It's a dilemma, actually, and it's a tough one.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of leads us into this next part of the discussion I wanted to have, which is process. I mean, because sales is a process. There are steps, there are things, there's different sub-processes within the process. I'd have thought that for engineering, this would be easier. They'd love it. It's just another set of stuff, because again, I see, manufacturers, engineers, they spend a lot of time looking at their processes.
Yeah.
And forgive me if I get these wrong, I might have to correct, but there's the Six Sigmas, there's Kaizens, there's QAs, there's ISOs, there's a ton of process that people will invest time and effort in, but then kind of just ignore the sales one, which is where the business is coming from. Am I looking at this with the way I want to look at it, or is that true?
I think sales, just like any other function within a business, it has to have a process. Marketing, sales are right at the front end of the business process, and sales has to have a process. We have a process in HPS that we've fine-tuned and continue to develop, year on year. If you try and sell without a process, you're going to get inconsistency. You're going to end up with mis-selling, overselling, underselling, wrong solutions for the client, and so on. There are ways of doing something. I know you're also actually going to, if you don't have a process to follow, you're going to miss out on sales. It's as simple as that.
Okay, so again, for my, it's a bit like research now, which it is, I guess, so engineering processes, they change, don't they?
I do.
ISOs have changed, QA has changed. I mean, my very first job was aligned to a factory. I remember there's all sorts of, actually Kanban, I think, was something else. But again, there's all these things on these boards, but they seem to develop even while I was there.
Yeah, they are.
And you just put it continuous improvement.
That's a
Of course
continuous improvement. You get the basics right, and then you're forever tweaking because the external environment changes all the time. There's new technology comes along, there's new machinery, there's better ways of doing things. And it's exactly the same in sales.
It is exactly the same in sales because the environments are changing, and those evolutions, those shifts, people, if they have been trained, aren't necessarily keeping up with those little things, which are just the basis that you had. It's just shifted a little bit. And if you just shift with it, you're going to be better. Yeah. Again, I see that people just don't seem to get the investment in that because they're looking at other stuff. Is that because it's close to home? They understand it better. It's got, again, more to do with the product, the bit, the manufacturing, the making that they love. Is that why it might get neglected?
I think that's part of it. There's also, I think, a reputation, I think, for people who don't understand sales, that you just reel off a few features and benefits. Unless you've got a very good product, it's not going to sell itself. So an example, I gave a talk to a group of students a few weeks ago about marketing, and I was thinking, when I first started in marketing, there was no Google, there was no email, there was no internet, and I thought to myself, what on earth did we do? We actually did a lot of brochures and stuff in envelopes and trade magazine adverts and so on, but it's changed beyond recognition, and certainly with marketing, it's changing constantly. Pay-per-click, social media, and all this stuff. We're doing things differently now than we were 6 months ago, and I don't see why sales is any different. The social media part is a big thing in sales now, and that needs to be part of the process. Every company's different, every client's different, everybody has their own way of doing things, but there are set. It's really important to keep up with things, get a process in place, and keep tweaking it, keep refining it, keep improving it.
Yeah. How many P's were there when you first started in marketing then?
There was 4. I don't know what we're up to now.
9, 19. I don't know. I think it's 9, but yeah, there was 4 back in my day. But again, you say something interesting there. Sales and marketing, they are, again, my humble opinion, coming closer and closer than they've ever been. Like you said, because salespeople, I think, are like mini marketers. They should be producing stuff. They should be putting their own content out on social media, not sharing the company's page, which is often product anyway, but their angle on something, bringing themselves to the party, creating their own little content library that they can point people to. Not expect to get reaction there in the moment, but this thing and their own brand as being the person that they go to. Yeah, is that what you're alluding to? Is that, are we on the same page?
Yeah, it goes all the way through the company, the whole process. I think it's always been important for sales and marketing to work closely together. Sales and marketing's eyes and ears generally, and vice versa to a certain extent. In a company where sales and marketing are in their own silos, it's not going to work, and that is growing closer, particularly with the social media, but also further down the line. The engineers have some really good stories and feedback for salespeople. Engineers get out there. Our engineers certainly are meeting our clients, they're talking to our clients and getting feedback on our systems and getting feedback from the market generally. So they need to feedback to sales and marketing. It works very well that way.
Yeah. Hint to marketers, if you are listening to this, don't ask salespeople, sales engineers for case studies. They'll run a mile. They hate it. It just screams boring, and I'm going to have to hassle a client more when I'm trying to actually talk to them about selling them stuff. Not call it a success story, which is exactly the same thing. Yeah. And you'll get a different response. reframing.
That's a good tip, actually. Success story. I'm going to write that down.
It also changes how you tell it. Because again, what I see is when it's a case study, it's about the company that sold it and they're the hero. And look how wonderful we are with our brilliant systems, which do wonderful things for the client. Well, the client don't care. A success story, the story's about the client, what they were trying to do, the challenge they had. And so, oh yeah, we did some clever stuff. They don't need to know what the clever stuff was. They want to know what was the challenge, what was the outcome, and then they'll talk to you. And so framing a story just gets different. I think, but again, we're back to what you said 10, 15 minutes ago, which is client focus, thinking about them, their business, their world, and then maybe we can do stuff for them. You were telling me about just before we press record, which is quite interesting. You were telling me about a manufacturer who, I mean, sometimes people can't get out of their own way, but you were saving them potentially a ton of money, but they didn't want to change. But then other things start to change, and because you have that understanding of them, you're immediately able to go and say, look, this is changing your world. Now must be the time to talk about this. Can you just tell me that one again? Tell me that success story.
Yeah, I guess it is. So this is 2 or 3 years ago, a juice manufacturer. Very briefly, our technology would have saved, and we did all the calculations, several hundreds of thousands of pounds, dollars, euros every year. And the project was going smoothly, and it got right to the top, and the guy at the top said, "We can live with these losses," which breaks my heart. But the point is that there's been a crop failure, and the price of juice has suddenly increased. So we are now getting inquiries from a lot of juice companies who want to implement our technology because it makes it more efficient. Now that relates to sales, I think, because if you've got a very strong brand, if you're fortunate enough to have a very good product, etc., it will sell itself to a certain extent, and you can live with your losses, your sales losses, so to speak, until something happens, until the crop failure will be a competitor comes up with a better product or a more unique product or something else, or your brand suddenly fails for some reason, somebody else has a stronger brand. You need to have a process in place. You can't sort of sit back and let the sales come in. You might have an easy ride for a little while, but you've got to be prepared for the tough times, and that's where a strong sales process comes in.
Yeah, and really understanding. I mean, a good sales process is aligned to buying process anyway. I mean, no longer do we do a sales process to people. Yeah, no matter what your CRM might say. Yeah, well, some people still try to do that, and it's like, okay, no, we need to be more aligned to buyers. In fact, if anything, the buying, I'm talking about it being like this big squiggly line, which is why sales and marketing are so close, because we're feeding into people who are on this squiggly, messy journey they don't know they're on. But what I think the sales process helps you do, it helps you move along, finding out that, yes, you could be saving hundreds of thousands of pounds. They'll get that, right? But then it changes. And what a good understanding of sales process means is it's no longer this fear of missing out. It's the fear of messing up. And it's the risk of applying that. And the guy was basically saying, I've got to put my neck on the line to implement this, and it's not worth 100,000 quid to me at the moment.
That's it.
And so the sales technique has to change in what you're saying and doing to them. But if you don't know that process and those ways of operating, that's where we get stuck a bit sometimes.
Yeah, that's extreme. That was an extreme example. We don't get that very often. But,
oh no, extreme examples are the best because we can illustrate around them. But people are going, nah, it's not quite. We'll think about it a little bit. It's often that little shift, isn't it?
There can often be a reason not to do something if the sales guy, if the client doesn't want to do it for whatever reason, there's often a reason not to. It's the important is to uncover that reason and find out the real reason there is. We often get project cancelled even though they're on paper there's a strong business case, we'll often get project cancelled, and the challenge is to find out why was the project cancelled, especially if there's a strong business case from our point of view anyway.
Normally the strong business case is logical, isn't it? The spreadsheet says this is the amount of money you're going to spend, this is why, it just makes total and utter sense. But it's that emotional side, which again is sales, understanding sales training to those personal drivers, those reasons why somebody might or might not want to. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm nearly
particularly
retired, Peter. I'm not going to do this project. It's like a load of hassle for me. I
it
can
can be.
see another year out without it. No, project cancelled, mate.
Yeah, yeah, and that hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of increased efficiency, it's not going to affect their pay packet. So, particularly in the larger companies, it might affect their share value, but it's just a
Yeah.
lot of hassle for a lot of people. So it's talking and it's finding the right motivations. That's real important. And sometimes it's, personal, sometimes it's political, sometimes it's other reasons that they just can't be bothered to take the pain or the risk, as you say, putting
Yeah.
their head on the line. It's an investment and it's risky. Why not have an easy job?
When you say political, are you talking about who wins the next election, or are you talking about
No, sorry, I
the,
meant
the
internal
politics
politics. Yeah,
within the organization and all these different stakeholders who all got different axe to grind and all that?
that's it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Another thing that I see, and again, call me out if I'm seeing stuff wrong, particularly with engineers, is that they will find it very, very easy to talk to other engineers because they've got the same language. They're concentrating on the problem. These guys love fixing problems. I love watching engineers work together because they just get their heads around something and things happen. But they're not the only people involved in the decision, aren't there? There'll be others. There's procurement. There's
Okay.
other finance people. There might be senior management. There might be sales and marketing involved. They speak different languages. There's different things that they care about, and they'll find it difficult to want to go or difficult to speak to them, so they don't want to do it. They don't map out this whole decision making unit, and you get in your own way because you're not talking to enough folk. Is that fair? Is that a
Oh,
reasonable?
completely. It's a very dangerous thing to do because if you just sell to engineers, then leave them to it, they are basically becoming your salesperson in that client company. So they're the ones who are going to promote it internally. So you need to get the whole decision-making unit involved. It's not easy. There are different ways of doing it. But you need to so for example, with us, you need engineers, production managers, quality, finance have to be involved, sometimes procurement, sometimes further up the chain, etc. If it's a high value product, you have to get everybody on board. The danger with just talking to engineers or production managers, etc., is they become your champion within the company, within your client company, and they probably aren't salespeople, and your message is going to get watered down. They're not going to be able to answer all the questions as your guys could be.
Yeah, because the different functions care about different stuff.
I
And so the
do.
engineer will keep talking about the engineering stuff, but the finance guys, like, that's just not on my radar. I'm not measured on these things. It doesn't make sense to me. We need to understand what they care about and align what we are talking about to what they care about. And that's on us, isn't it? It's not on the champion, not on the
Oh,
person whose
absolutely.
problem we're actually fixing.
Yeah.
But other people have got jobs to be done as well, haven't they?
Absolutely, but they need to be persuaded. One of the ways we've got around it is actually thanks to COVID. We have a demonstration facility. We do a lot of live demonstrations. As when COVID kicked in, we had to do those demonstrations over video, over Teams, whatever, Zoom, etc. And what we found is that we can get the whole decision-making unit on the same call. We did it only yesterday. It's fantastic. You can get your engineers involved, you can get your quality people, your production, your finance, sometimes even CEOs involved, because it's only like an hour of their time. They ask fantastic questions. They tend to be different questions, as you say. What matters to the finance people is different from what matters to the quality control, and that's different from what matters to the production guys trying to get the product out the door. So the questions tend to be different, varied, and you can get them all talking to each other, and it works very well.
The conversations they've got to have with each other, you've actually pulled them together, perhaps
We
for the
put them
first time. So
together.
could
We
you
end
actually
up
put them in a
taking
little breakout?
part
Right,
in
you guys need a breakout room. Off you go. We'll
it.
leave you to it. We're not recording it, promise. Come back in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so is that is presenting in your factory then, in your premises?
That's
Is
it.
that
We
right?
have a
Yeah.
purpose-built demonstration facility,
Right.
which we started off using a mobile phone, but we've got a bit
Yeah.
better at it.
So
And
it's like a studio then. And do you think then of the presentation like a production? And that you kind of have a
yeah,
presenter and you're kind of like, these different parts of the audience need this, and we'll give it the ebb and flow that are good. Because these guys are
How
sat watching on
it's
telly, aren't they? Basically, it's like
Yeah, they
telly.
are more like a live production, as
Yeah,
in,
yeah,
every client is different. They all have different aims and objectives.
yeah,
So we take those into account and they ask questions as we go along. And, if
yeah,
they want to see something again, if they want to see a particular valve or a close up of a big detector or something, we can
mm.
do that and we'll stop and show them. They do tend to follow the same format. We do 2 or 3 a week now.
Cool.
And so we've sort of got them off that. But yeah, there's always the odd curveball comes in. A lot of the questions are the same, but there's always everyone now and again you get something nobody's asked before, which is interesting.
Yeah, yeah. No, there is it, and you've kind of you've codified what that performance looks like.
Yeah,
Yeah, open with impact. Yeah,
yeah,
their challenges, their world, not, oh, look at how wonderful we are, and da, 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 da. Literally the stuff we've been saying earlier. No,
not
no, no,
at
leave
all.
that to the end. So your particular challenge then, so here is how we could solve them. Look at it working like this. Then we can start to do some credibility. Then we can, if we haven't answered the questions along there, that would, again, not having done this in your world, but that would be how I would kind of script or formulate, not script, formulate that production. I like
Yeah,
the word production. It is a production.
it is a live production, and yeah, it works very well. So we can sort of we have the standard questions that we'll sort of answer to start with. We have the standard routine. It's not a sale. It's demonstrate. It is literally a demonstration and how this technology would apply to our clients. One of the other benefits, of course, if we were demonstrating, if we didn't have this demonstration facility, and say a juice company wanted to see a system in practice, we wouldn't be able to take them to another juice company because they're competitors. So we'd have to take them to a paint company or something like that that's non-competitive. And to be honest, you don't actually see much when you see another system. There's a button to press, it's all automatic, there's lights flash, and that's it. And you'd have to time it so they would actually give it the pigging operation. With our demonstration facility, we've got transparent pipes and all sorts of bits and pieces so people can actually see what's going on and they can run it as many times as we need to.
Do you have this stuff on YouTube? Did you record some of these and sort of
Some
clip
of
out
it, yeah.
the highlights and whack
I
them onto
I
YouTube?
do
Yeah,
by request. I don't know. I've got a few pages. We prefer to
How
do
do we
them
have to
live.
ask? Is there a secret code for getting?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's all top secret stuff. I prefer the live demonstrations, so we can talk to our clients that way,
yeah.
and we can, make the demonstration particularly around their needs and requirements around them. We can bespoke production, if you like. So
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
we do have bits and pieces on our website all over the place.
And would you? I'm just thinking aloud of some of the tech and some of these little advancements and things that we can do, like using this sort of live presentation formula. You wouldn't have been doing this a few years ago. Like COVID's forced you into it. And you go, actually, this is a pretty good way. That's better for everyone.
It is, and it's worked very well. Originally, we set it up expecting people to come to our premises and visit, and that's what they did to start. But we didn't get a lot of traction on that. I mean, obviously UK customers, but most of our customers are export. We sell all over the world. A couple of weeks ago, we had people from about the same company, but 5 different countries on the same call. It's fantastic.
Brilliant. And then so the other thing I'm thinking that kind of how I sort of do things a little bit as well, but it's sort of I'd take some of the main elements and then I would clip them, but it would probably go into would go into a web page just for them.
Yeah.
So the little sort of your takeaway from this, here are the highlights. Here's where we did this and we spoke about this and this is why we did this, and you can go back and you can review it and use that as you continue to make your decision. So I want to make the decision as easy as possible for you. That's what we're trying to do as salespeople, isn't it? Yeah.
No, that's
And
a
then
good idea. You do that.
oh, there's a cracking piece of software to do this. Trumpet, send it.
Right.
Don't Google send trumpet, 'cause otherwise you'll just get loads of picture trumpets.
Yeah.
But Rory, he was on the podcast a little while ago now. Talks about this. It's very easy to create these pages just for clients.
Okay.
Digital dynamic proposals with all sorts of different widgets you can move in. Oh yeah, it's very cool. Again, it's stuff that if you're not looking to keep moving yourself forward, there are these little things that we can just keep moving ourselves away from the competition because we just do these little things which are better for the customer. And that's the stuff which moves us away. It's that buying experience, isn't it? Yeah, nice. Oh, this is very cool. I now want to come to one of these presentations. I know when you were saying something on LinkedIn before, you were talking about pig racing, and that got me dead excited. And you're like, I think you have to let me down gently, so we don't actually do that, Fred. I'm like, oh no, gutted. But I'd love to see. I'd love to see one of those presentations live, because I
Yeah,
think I'd
you're
learn a hell
very
of a lot.
welcome to join us. Yeah.
Yeah, who's that guy in the corner? Oh, he wants to. He
Uh,
just likes seeing
oh
pig
yes,
demos.
Fred.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
that is very cool. Now, this people you've shared a lot of stuff. With us, some of the things you're doing, and kind of, I know when I'm asking questions and asking you to talk about an industry or a sector, it's quite tough, but it's been useful to sort of hear that and hear how you're um, dealing with those. How do people get in touch with you? That there might be manufacturers listening who think, well, actually, I need that stuff, or might be people who want to kind of share best practice, whatever. How do people get in touch with you?
Very welcome. Find me on LinkedIn. More than happy to connect via LinkedIn, or look at our website, which is www.hps-pigging.com.
Brilliant. I can pop links to those into the show notes, so people don't have to dig
Fantastic.
around for
Thank
them. They
you.
can click straight on that. Awesome stuff, Peter. That's really cool. Thank you so much for taking time and sort of humoring me with some of my thoughts and helping me check my understanding, and then sort of sharing some of the ideas that are working for you. I really do appreciate that. Thank you.
An absolute pleasure talking to you, Fred.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Today podcast with me, your host, Fred Copestake. I hope you've enjoyed what you heard today. If you did, please get in touch and hit subscribe. And remember, you can take the collaborative selling scorecard for free to check out how your sales approach works in today's environment. You'll find it in the show notes.